Thanks, Cale. This next story concerns the city of Portland and two problems here that we report on week after week after week after week after week, it feels like. They are fentanyl and deadly violence. One of the issues is getting remarkably worse, while data shows some promising signs for decline on the other one. The saying goes, I got good news, I got bad news. Which one do you want first? All right, in this case, I've got horrible news and then encouraging news about a horrible problem. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at a new information released this morning by Portland Police. Since the middle of June, 10 kids under the age of 18 have overdosed and half of them have died. Fentanyl is suspected in 9 of the 10 cases. Police believe the drug is to blame for all 5 of the deaths. How do those numbers compare to the past? Well, they're astronomically high. In the past 3 years combined, Portland Police investigated 9 juvenile overdose cases. We've had 10 in the past 3.5 months. Police are not releasing the names of the children who died, but perhaps a look at their ages is going to help hammer this home for you. On June 19th, a 2-year-old died from a suspected fentanyl overdose. August 10th, a 15-year-old. August 24th, a 1-year-old. September 14th, a 5-year-old. And just 8 days ago, another 15-year-old. These are children, from infants to teens. So if you ever think that fentanyl is not that dangerous, or perhaps you or someone you know is using the drug, you are putting yourself and the people around you, children included, in grave danger. Portland Police say their narcotics unit is investigating all of these recent suspected overdoses, for what it's worth. But come on, no amount of investigating is going to bring these kids back to life. The drug should not have been accessible to them in the first place. So that's the horrible news I mentioned earlier. Now, let's move on to the encouraging news about another horrible problem. That's deadly violence in our city. And for this segment, our colleagues at the Oregonian crunched the numbers, and we think their coverage is definitely worth your time. It comes from reporter Catalina Gaitan. Portland sees longest streak with no homicides in years. Numbers plummet. This is a subscriber article, meaning it's behind a paywall, so we're not going to give you all of the great details, but enough to encourage you to subscribe because you should. They do great work. This morning's homicide in Southeast was the first since August 28th. That's a stretch of 30 days with no killings in the city. It marked the 54th homicide this year. That's down from last year at this time, 2022. 72 people had been killed. It's no secret that Portland's homicide numbers set grim records in the past 2 years, but here's a reminder. 92 people died in 2021 and 101 last year. Those crushed the previous high of 70 homicides way back in 1987. But here's an interesting note about those numbers. According to the Oregonian, the homicide rate today, well, it's still lower than it was back in '87 because of population growth. In the late 80s, the city had around 420,000 people. That population, coupled with 70 homicides, put the rate at 16.7 per 100,000 people. That's how you normalize it out. Now, the city's population currently is 635,000. If the current rate of homicides holds steady the rest of this year, the city is projected to have about 72 homicides total. That would put that rate at 11.1 per 100,000 people. That's remarkably lower than the 16.7 from the late 80s. So good context there, we think. The Oregonian article goes into greater detail with data on the last time the city saw 30 days without a murder, how non-fatal shootings this year compare to previous years, and how homicides compare to the years leading up to the pandemic. You should go check it out now and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already because, as we said, they do great work.